I want to start with something simple. Think about a child, not a specific child, just the image of one. A child who doesn't know yet what they're supposed to be, who laughs too loud sometimes, who cries over things adults would call small, who runs toward whatever interests them without first checking if it's appropriate, who says exactly what they think because the idea of editing themselves hasn't occurred to them yet. Now think about what happens to that child over the next 20 years, slowly, gradually, in ways so small that no single moment feels like a turning point. They start to learn. They learn which parts of them are welcomed and which parts create problems. They learn what earns a smile and what earns a look. They learn when to speak and when to go quiet, when to need things and when to pretend they don't, when to be big and when to make themselves smaller. And by the time that child is an adult, they've become someone functional, someone who knows how to navigate the world. But somewhere in that process, somewhere between the child who just existed and the adult who knows how to perform, something got left behind. Not lost, left behind. And the question this video is asking is a simple one. What was it? Most of us have never seriously asked that question. Not because we're not curious, because the answer feels dangerous. If I ask who I was before all the shaping happened, I might discover that the person I've become is quite different from the person I actually am. And once I see that, I can't unsee it. I have to do something with it. So we don't ask. We keep moving. We stay busy. We tell ourselves this is just who I am, without ever stopping to wonder whether that's true. But every once in a while, usually in the quiet moments, usually when the distraction stops, something surfaces. A longing with no clear name. A sadness that has no obvious cause. A feeling, brief and easy to dismiss, that the life you're living is real and also somehow not quite yours. That feeling isn't random. It's not a mood. It's not something to be treated or managed or optimized away. It's a signal from the part of you that existed before the world told you who to be, the part that's still in there, still waiting, still, after all this time, trying to be recognized. Let me tell you how the shaping happens, because most people think it happens in big dramatic moments. The parent who said you'd never be good enough. The teacher who humiliated you in front of the class. The rejection that cut deep enough to leave a mark. Those moments exist. They matter, but they're not actually where most of the shaping comes from. Most of it happens in tiny, ordinary moments. The parent who got quiet when you were sad, not cruel, just uncomfortable, and you learned that your sadness made people uncomfortable. So you started managing it before it could show. The family that rewarded achievement and was less sure what to do with you when you were just being, not producing, not performing, just existing. And you learned, not consciously, but in your bones, that existing wasn't quite enough on its own. The group of kids where you figured out, through small and almost invisible feedback, which version of you was accepted and which was a problem, and you became the accepted version. Because you were smart, because you needed to belong. The culture that told you, through television, through advertising, through the attitudes of adults around you, who was admirable and who wasn't. What was worth wanting and what wasn't. What kind of person was worth being. None of these were attacks. Most of them weren't even intentional. They were just the water you swam in. And you adapted to the water, as every living thing does. The problem isn't the adapting. It's that we stop remembering there was a person before the adaptation. We stop believing they're still in there. Here's what I know about that person. The one before the shaping. They had preferences. Specific, clear, strong preferences that had nothing to do with what was practical or appropriate or what would be well received. Things they were drawn to. Things they loved. Things that lit something up inside them before they knew enough to wonder if they should. Maybe it was a particular kind of story, a type of music, a way of spending time, an interest that didn't fit neatly into any category. Maybe it was a quality in themselves, a sensitivity they had, a way of seeing things, a kind of thinking that was genuinely theirs before anyone told them it was too much or not practical or something to grow out of. Maybe it was the way they related to people. Before they learned the rules of how you're supposed to relate, before they figured out that some kinds of care were welcome and others were embarrassing, before they learned to calibrate, those preferences didn't disappear when the world started shaping them. They went underground. And here's the thing about things that go underground. They don't die there. They wait. They show up sideways. They leak out in the things you're drawn to when you're not thinking about it. In what makes you feel briefly, unexpectedly, completely alive. In what you can't explain but can't stop returning to. That's not nostalgia. That's a map back to who you were and who you still, underneath everything, are. I want to tell you about a specific kind of grief. It's not the grief of losing something, not the grief of death or ending or the clear rupture of something that was there and now isn't. It's the grief of not having had the chance to be yourself, of realizing somewhere in your 30s or 40s or even later that you've been performing a version of yourself for so long that you don't actually know what the real version wants, what it feels, what it would choose if it had genuine freedom. That grief is subtle. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up as a vague dissatisfaction that you can't trace to any specific source. It shows up as the thing you feel when you watch someone who is clearly, completely themselves. Someone who speaks without editing, who wants things openly, who exists in the world without apologizing for taking up room. And you feel something watching them that isn't quite envy. It's more like recognition, a feeling of that. That's what I wanted to be before I learned not to. It shows up in the lives of other people. The one who became the painter when everyone said it wasn't practical. The one who walked away from the career that looked impressive to do the thing that was actually theirs, and you feel something watching them from a distance, not resentment, something softer and more painful than that. That's the grief I'm talking about. And I'm not bringing it up to make you feel bad. I'm bringing it up because grief, when you actually look at it, tells you exactly what mattered to you. You can't grieve something that didn't matter. You can only grieve what was real. So the grief is information. It's telling you what was yours, what got left behind, what is still, even now, even after everything, worth something to you. If this is touching something that doesn't usually get touched, stay with it. Subscribe. This is what we do here. Let me ask you something directly. When was the last time you did something that was entirely, completely, 100% for you? Not something that was also useful. Not something that could be justified by how it made you more productive or more balanced or better at your job. Something that was just yours, that you did because some part of you wanted it, with no other reason required. For a lot of people, that question is surprisingly hard to answer. Not because they never do things for themselves, but because almost everything they do has a layer of justification over it. A reason that makes it acceptable. A way it fits into something larger and more defensible than just, I wanted to. And what that reveals is something important. They don't fully trust that wanting something is enough reason to do it. They learn somewhere along the line that desire by itself wasn't quite legitimate, that needing a good reason was the price of permission, that you had to be able to explain your choices in terms that made sense to someone else. Or they didn't really count. That's a learned thing. Children don't start that way. Children want what they want without apologizing for the wanting. They need a reason to stop, not a reason to go. Somewhere in the process of becoming who the world needed you to be, you learned to need permission to be yourself. And you've been asking for it ever since, in 1,000 small ways, in the slight hesitation before saying what you think, in the automatic consideration of how it will land before you even decide what you believe, in the checking and adjusting and moderating that happens so fast you barely notice it anymore. The question of who you were before the world told you who to be is also the question of what would you do if you stopped asking for permission? Here is something that might sound strange. Most people, when they think about recovering who they were, imagine a dramatic process, a big undoing, a revolution, tearing down what was built and starting over from scratch. That's not what this looks like. It looks much smaller and much more ordinary. It looks like noticing what you feel before you decide what you're supposed to feel, noticing what you want before you convert it into something more manageable, noticing what you think before you run it through the filter of how it will be received. Just noticing, not acting on it necessarily, not announcing it, not making it into something bigger than it is, just being present to it for one moment before the editing begins, because the editing is so fast, so automatic. Most people have no idea how quickly they process their actual response into the acceptable one. It happens before they're even conscious of it. But if you can slow down enough to catch it, if you can be in that gap between the actual feeling and the managed version of it, you start to remember something. You start to remember what you're actually like, not the version that was built, the one underneath. And that remembering doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small flashes. A moment where you notice what you actually felt before you decided what to feel. A moment where you catch the desire before it gets edited. A moment where something in you says quietly, that's real, that's mine. Those moments are small, but they're everything. Let me talk about what happens when you find your way back. Not all the way. Not in some complete finished sense. I don't believe in that. I don't think there's a destination where you fully recovered who you were and everything is resolved. But partially, in the ways that are possible. When you start to let the actual self have more room, when you stop editing so heavily, stop explaining so much, stop needing permission for what you want and feel and think, something shifts. Not immediately, not dramatically, but your relationships change quality, not necessarily the people, but the quality of the connection. Because the person showing up is more real, and real invites real back. When you stop performing so hard, the people around you often relax too. The conversation gets more honest. The closeness goes deeper. The work you do starts to feel different, even if it's the same work, because you're bringing more of yourself to it. You're not just executing tasks with the capable version of yourself. You're actually there. And that presence changes what you make, what you contribute, what you're capable of. The way you inhabit your days changes, even the small ones, even the unremarkable ones, because you're actually in them, not managing them from a slight distance, not performing your way through them, not waiting for them to lead to the version of your life that will finally feel real. Present, genuinely present, in the day that's actually happening. That shift from managing your life to actually living it is one of the most significant things that becomes possible when you start answering the question this video is asking. I want to say something for the people who are thinking, it's too late for me, who are looking at their lives, at the commitments they've made, the person they've become, the years that have already passed, and thinking that this question, however interesting, doesn't really apply to them anymore. That ship has sailed. I'm too far in, I'm too old. There's too much built around the version I've become to start asking who I was before. I want to push back on that gently, but clearly, it's not too late. Not because everything can change, it can't, and pretending otherwise would be dishonest. Some choices close other choices. Some things genuinely can't be undone. But within whatever your life is now, within the commitments and the responsibilities and the life you've built, there is room. Room for one more real conversation, one more honest moment, one more afternoon doing the thing that is actually yours rather than the thing that is required. Room to let your actual opinion be in the room, even if just once. Room to want something without immediately justifying it. Room to be, in some small and growing and important way, more yourself. That room exists in every life, at every age, in every situation. The question isn't whether it's possible. It's whether you're willing to use the room that's already there. Let me talk about something specific, the things you were told to stop doing. Not the dangerous things, not the things that actually needed to stop. The other ones. You were too sensitive. Stop being so sensitive. You were too loud, too much, too intense. Tone it down. You asked too many questions. You felt things too deeply. You cared about things that other people didn't find worth caring about. You were dreamy, or too serious, or too silly, or not serious enough. You wanted too much attention, or you were too in your head, or you felt things too strongly. And maybe nobody said it exactly like that. Maybe it wasn't said at all. Maybe it was just communicated through sighs and eye rolls and the specific way people responded to you when you were being that version of yourself. But you got the message, and you took the quality that was being flagged, the sensitivity, the intensity, the depth, the loudness, whatever it was, and you put it somewhere less visible. Not because you chose to, because you needed to. Here's what I want you to notice about that quality. The thing they told you to stop, the thing that was too much or not right, it didn't actually go away. It's still there. You can probably feel it right now if you pay attention, but it changed shape because it had to. The sensitivity that was too much for the room didn't disappear. It became hypervigilance, a constant reading of other people's moods, an anxiety about getting things wrong. The intensity that was too much became either explosion, when it finally breaks through, or nothing. A flatness, a numbness that arrives when something genuinely matters and you instinctively shut down before you can be told again that it's too much. The creativity that didn't fit became private, hidden, something you do alone that you'd never share, because you learned early that sharing it made you vulnerable to a response you couldn't handle. The quality didn't disappear. It adapted. It went somewhere. And here's the thing that nobody tells you. Those qualities, the ones that were too much, are often your most important ones. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw you grew out of. It's how you read the world. It's why you notice things other people miss. It's the source of the empathy that makes people feel seen when they talk to you. It's one of the most valuable things about you. Your intensity isn't a problem. It's what allows you to actually care about things, to go deep rather than staying at the surface, to be someone who means something to the people in their life, not just someone who passes through. The loudness was just aliveness, a body that was present in the world. When you start to understand this, when you see that what was told to be too much was actually something real and valuable, it changes the relationship you have with yourself. It becomes harder to keep treating those parts as problems, and it becomes possible to start treating them as yours. There's a specific kind of person I want to speak to right now. The person who is really good at being what other people need, who reads rooms, who adjusts, who knows without being told what the situation requires and then becomes that. Seamlessly, quickly. Maybe people compliment you on this. You're so easy to be around. You just get it. You always know what to say. And it's true. You are good at it. But here's the cost nobody talks about. When you're always adjusting to what the room needs, there's very little room left for what you need. When you're always reading what's wanted and then providing it, you lose practice at knowing what you actually want. When your whole way of relating to people is organized around them, around their comfort, their reactions, their needs, you can end up in a room full of people who love you and feel completely alone. Not because they don't care, but because they're not meeting you. They're meeting the version of you that was shaped to fit the space. And you've been shaping yourself so automatically for so long that sometimes you don't even know what the unshapen version looks like anymore. That's a strange and painful thing to realize, and it often arrives not as a dramatic crisis, but as a quiet moment. A conversation where you realize you've said everything the other person wanted to hear and nothing that was actually true. A relationship where you've been genuinely kind and genuinely available, and somehow, from the inside, it feels like you weren't really there. Because you weren't. The part of you that reads and adjusts was there. But the part that is just without adjustment, you, that part was somewhere else. Getting yourself back from that isn't about becoming less caring. It's not about suddenly becoming difficult or selfish or dropping the sensitivity to other people. It's about finding out what it feels like to also show up, to also be someone whose preferences matter in the room, to also take up space, not instead of caring for others, alongside it. I want to say something about the people who love you because I think sometimes we underestimate them. When we hide the more difficult or complicated parts of ourselves, the sensitivity, the need, the real opinions, the actual feelings, we often tell ourselves we're protecting them. It would burden them, they'd worry, they wouldn't understand. It's easier this way. But what actually happens is different. When you consistently present only the managed version, the people who love you don't get to really love you. They get to love the performance, and that's not their fault. They're loving what's offered to them, but you feel it as a gap, a loneliness inside the connection, a sense that even the people closest to you don't fully know you, and sometimes you blame them for that. You think they should try harder, ask better questions, be more perceptive, but they can't reach what you're not showing. The vulnerability you're protecting them from is often the exact thing that would make the relationship real. The thing that would take it from connection to intimacy. From people who like each other to people who actually know each other. The real you, the unmanaged, imperfect, sometimes too much and sometimes not enough real you, is not a burden to the people who actually love you. It's what they're looking for. It's what would make them feel less alone in the relationship. It's what would make them feel trusted, like they're actually being let in. You've been protecting them from the gift. Let me talk about what it costs to stay hidden. Not in the dramatic sense, the slow cost, the kind that adds up over years. Every time you edit yourself before speaking, you spend a small amount of energy. Not much, almost nothing. But every day, every interaction, for years, that's a lot of energy spent not being yourself. And after a while it shows, not as a breakdown, as a tiredness that doesn't respond to sleep, a flatness that doesn't respond to anything, a growing sense that your life is yours and somehow it doesn't feel like yours. That's what it costs to stay hidden. And the strange thing is that staying hidden doesn't actually protect you. It just delays the encounter with yourself, the encounter you're going to have eventually, one way or another, either in a moment you choose, a quiet, deliberate, gradual coming back to yourself, or in a moment that chooses you, a crisis, a loss, a disruption that cracks the managed version open and forces the real one to the surface. Both are possible. Only one of them is something you have any control over. Let me tell you about a moment that a lot of people experience but never talk about. It usually happens somewhere in the middle of life, not at any specific age, just at a point where you've been who you've been for long enough that the life built around it is real and solid and full. You're in it. You have the relationships, the work, the routines. Things are, by most measures, going okay. And then something small happens. Not a crisis, something small. A song comes on and something opens up in you for a moment. Or you watch someone doing something they clearly love and you feel an ache that you can't explain. Or you find something you made years ago, something creative, something personal, and you hold it and feel a strange mix of recognition and grief. And in that moment, briefly, clearly, the question surfaces. Who was I going to be? Not who was I supposed to be? Not who did the world need me to be? Who was I going to be? Before I started making the compromises that felt small at the time and added up to something large. That question is not a sign that your life went wrong. It's a sign that you're paying attention. It's a sign that the original person, the one who had ideas about who they were going to be, what they were going to do, what kind of life was going to be theirs, that person is still in there, still aware of the distance between then and now. You don't have to blow up your life to honor that question, but you do have to take it seriously. What would it mean within your actual life as it is to close even a small part of that distance? Not to become who you were going to be at 22. That version is gone, and that's okay. But to bring back something of that person's spirit into who you are now, their willingness to want things openly, their curiosity that went where it went without asking first if that was practical, their belief that their perspective mattered enough to be spoken out loud. Those things aren't gone. They're just waiting for you to decide they still count. They do. They always have. Here is something I've noticed. The people who find it hardest to answer the question, who were you before the world shaped you, are often the most successful ones. The ones who built something impressive, who have a career that works, a life that functions, an identity that other people respect and recognize, because their success is real. And it's built on the version of them that the world rewarded. So when someone suggests there might be another version underneath, a version that got left behind in the process of building all that, it's threatening in a specific way. It feels like it would undermine what was built, like acknowledging the original self would somehow subtract from the achieved self. But here's what I've seen happen when people actually go looking. They don't find a different person. They find more of the same person. The achievement was real. The capability was real. The drive was real. But underneath it, buried under the years of proving and performing and earning, was a version of that drive that was cleaner. That wasn't organized around fear. That moved toward things because they were genuinely interesting, genuinely meaningful, genuinely worth doing, not to prove anything and not to earn anything, just because something in them pointed that direction and it felt true. That version of the drive, unhooked from the anxiety, separated from the need to demonstrate worth, is more powerful than the anxious one, not less. Finding the original self doesn't undo what you've built. It gives you a cleaner relationship to it. One where you can tell the difference between the things you do because you genuinely want to and the things you do because you still somewhere deep believe you have to. That distinction changes everything. Let me say one last thing about the people who feel like it's too late, who look at their lives, the commitments, the relationships, the years, and think the question is interesting but doesn't really apply to them anymore. I want to be direct with you. The original self doesn't have an expiration date. The sensitivity you buried at 12 is still in there at 45. The desire you learned not to talk about is still real. The version of you that existed before all the shaping, that version didn't stop being real just because a lot of time passed. It's in there, right now, in this moment. You can feel it in the things that still move you even when you wish they wouldn't. In the things that make you feel unexpectedly alive. In the response you have to beauty or music or a particular kind of story. In the anger that surfaces when something unfair happens, even when you've learned to keep your anger quiet. Those aren't accidents. Those are the original person, still present, still responding to the world in the way they always did. The work is not to become who you were before. You can't do that. Time moved. Life happened. Those experiences are part of you now. The work is to bring that original person forward, into the life you're living now. Not to replace who you became, but to include who you were, so that the person living your life is more whole. More actually you. Not someday, starting now. In small ways, in ordinary moments, in the next conversation where something real is there to be said, it's not too late. It was never going to be too late, because they were never really gone. Here's the most honest thing I can say. Knowing who you were before the world told you who to be is not the end of anything. It's not the end of your responsibilities, not the end of your commitments, not permission to abandon the life you've built or the people who are part of it. It's the beginning of something much quieter and much more lasting. The beginning of being in your life, actually in it, not watching it from behind the version of yourself that was assembled for other people. The beginning of your own preferences having weight. Your actual feelings being allowed to exist before they're converted into something manageable. Your genuine thinking being given a chance to be heard, at least by you, before it's edited. The beginning of the discovery, ongoing, non-linear, imperfect, of who you actually are. Not who you were shaped to be. Not who you needed to be. Not who the world decided was the acceptable version of a person like you. You. The one who had preferences before anyone told them which preferences were okay. The one who felt things before anyone told them which feelings were appropriate. The one who was going somewhere before they were redirected. Underneath all of it, still there, still waiting, still after everything, real. I want to leave you with something simple, not a practice, not a list, just a question to carry with you. The next time you're about to say something, about to express an opinion, make a choice, respond to someone, notice the moment just before, the moment before the editing starts. What's there? What was there before you decided what was safe to say? That thing, whatever it is, pay attention to it. Not because you have to act on it, not because it's always right, but because it's real. And real, genuinely, unedited, yours, is the rarest thing in most people's lives. It doesn't have to stay that way. That's the conversation this channel exists for. I'll see you in the next one.